I think he was the pastor of the pastors, without a doubt. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What happens when truth doesn't matter anymore?
Good morning, and welcome to another episode of The Outsiders. I'm your host, Sean Simms, and of course I have my co-host superstar, Doc Cheatham, in studio with me this week. Say hello to the people, Doc.
Good morning, family, and happy Resurrection Easter Saturday.
Oh, I was going to make that announcement first. You jumped the route. My co-host jumped the route.
Oh, Lord, I'm sorry.
I literally is going to, here's in my note, happy pre-Easter.
Oh, you got to be kidding. That means we're on the same line.
We're on the same page, or what I like to call it, pre-Resurrection Sunday.
Isn't that something?
And this is the day Yeshua, Jesus Christ, for you folks out there, who showed the world he is see my notes, the risen Savior. So it got it done. And in studio, our special guest, author, activist. This man, he's done a lot. I've got his book right here. America is on Fire and Crumbling. Mr. Bill Goodin in studio.
Hey, I just want to say good morning, everybody, and of course, thank y'all for this opportunity to be here and to share this here day.
Bill's going to be talking about the water issue, the water bill issue. That's going to be coming up just a little bit later. He's going to sit in studio with us for this 1 hour of fun and frolic. And we give the people here, the outsiders, we give the people the inside information. And I'd like to start off, it's going to be a jam-packed show, and I'd like to start off just what happened last night. My wife and I went to the American Legion 122 in Owings Mills. My dad was military, Army Ranger, and I like to hang out with the military folk. Doc, there's another.
Watch it there.
Here's another. No, but we love our the police to take care of the people, the good ones, not the bad ones, the good ones. So we love the police, our military, and we hung out there for karaoke. And I would like to give a quick shout out to my wife's nephew and my nephew for his 18th birthday, Kenyon Willis. So happy birthday, Kenyon. And don't forget that selective service thing I was telling him about. You remember that? I remember that. Oh my goodness. But happy 18th, Kenyon. And we'll be discussing, of course, we have to discuss today the elephant in the room. And come on, you all know the situation, the Trump arrest. We will be discussing the elephant in the room, the Trump arrest as well. Also the Stormy Daniels interview, and Slim Shady, Mayor Brandon Scott, almost sneaked one bias. He almost sneaked one bias, but the outsiders picked up what went under the radar, and we're going to discuss that later. Did you see what went down in Tennessee this past week?
I'm sad to say, I'm really not in favor of the Democrats, the Republicans, the Green Party. I just think the best person needs to be elected and serve us. But in this particular case, what they've done in Tennessee is so discriminatory, to have 3 people that they had problems with, and the 2 blacks they get rid of, they are Democrats, but the white woman who did the same thing, the exact same thing, they give her a pass. That was almost like the girl in the basketball game. She does one thing, but the white basketball girl who did it before her, she's given a pass. Tennessee, the only thing I can say that's worse than that is the fact that you look at these areas who don't want guns dealt with. They happen to be where the Republicans are in the majority. And Tennessee is one of those. All this issue was let's put down the guns, folks. We're killing each other.
Well, I think the situation that went on there, oh boy, it's a bad look for the Republicans, the way it went down. The name of this group, these three, the Tennessee Three, the scuttlebutt that went down. Justin Jones, these are the members of the Tennessee Three. Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, the two Justins, and Gloria Johnson. Gloria Johnson, like you just said, Doc, she actually kept her seat. So they voted to keep her in. And the two young black gentlemen who were part of the legislature, they got the boot. And, well, it looks like the way I was looking at it, because I said, let me look at this situation. This person, Gloria Johnson, she pointed out that she did not use a bullhorn while she was on the chamber floor. She pointed out that she was quiet. And basically, as far as the way I'm looking at it, she kind of threw the other two under the bus by doing that. And I don't know if you saw the movie Stripes with Bill Murray.
Of course.
Okay.
You mean how many times did I watch Stripes?
I've seen it a ton of times. My friends and I went to see it when it came out. Hilarious movie. But there was a scene in the movie where Sergeant Hulka, played by Warren Oates, he was getting on them in the barracks because they had gone out and obviously come in late or they messed up. So he didn't know who was out there messing up. So he's got the guy standing there and he goes, okay, who got the, kahunas basically to step out and let me know who messed up. So Bill Murray and Harold Ramis looked at each other and they went to step out because they both were the ones who were the guilty parties. And as they were stepping out, Bill Murray stopped. And Harold Ramis stepped out.
He was out there by himself.
And he was out there by himself and got the punishment. And this is exactly what Gloria Johnson did. She was with them, and then when the punishment went to come down, she pulled back, and the two young black gentlemen were kicked out. And then she turns around and says, well, this is racist. Wait a second. You're the one that threw them under the bus when you said you weren't really with them. You weren't really doing what they were doing. They were being loud. These loud black gentlemen were loud in the bullhorn, and I was quiet. But she was still involved. So, Bill, what do you think of that? You're here. I mean, what do you think of that situation?
Well, to be honest, I'm listening because I said a lot of what's happening is just remnants from Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think a lot of stuff happening politically. I mean, even that situation, we may not attach to Donald Trump, but I'm attaching to Donald Trump because the Republican behavior is different now since that Trump was in office. A whole bunch of them still see Trump as their savior. You have lots of followers out there. And I just think that politics, how we once knew it, even though it was bad then, is even worse now since Trump been in. So I just think that what happened there is just remnants from Donald Trump. And when we talk about racism, I think that racism has come out more openly now since Donald Trump was in office. So that's my opinion.
Well, our opinions are pretty similar, but I think what Gloria Johnson did, she threw them under the bus. And then she's playing both sides by saying, well, look, this is racist after they kept her in. But she threw them under the bus by saying, I didn't do all these things they did. Oh, but by the way, this is racist. So, I mean, that's my take on the matter. And we'll see what's going to happen, how the country deals with that. But let's move on, and briefly let's talk about, we were talking about it last week, Doc, and you said let's give them 60 days. The Maryland electronic court system that has been implemented in all the counties throughout the state except the Baltimore City Circuit Court, and which has not been implemented. And I sent a letter to Terry Charles, I mentioned her last week, of the Government Relations and Public Affairs. And I'm going to read the letter I sent to Ms. Charles. Hello, Terry. Can I get the statistics on the makeup of employees within each of the circuit courts in Maryland? This would include gender, age, and race. Thanks, Sean.
Straight to the point.
What's going on? Because it's, again, another elephant in the room. The Baltimore City Circuit Court is vast majority African American. The other circuit courts, correct me if I'm wrong, Doc, but aren't. So
the only one might be close, might be principals, might be principals.
Might be close to it.
Yeah.
Okay. But the Baltimore City Circuit Court is the largest circuit court. Okay. So lots going on there, but I want to just get, I want to see what the stats are on that with the makeup, because it just doesn't, just like what happened in Tennessee and the race issue, and then here you have in Maryland, you have the Circuit Court for Baltimore City, which is the largest circuit court, and they don't have the Maryland electronic court system set up. Why? I mean, I've asked, again, I'll read quickly. March 28th, I sent this again to the communications folk, Terry Charles. Questions, good afternoon. These questions are for Xavier Conaway, clerk of the Court for Baltimore City. When will the Maryland electronic court system be implemented and completed for the Baltimore City Circuit Court? Who and or what have been the cause for delays in the MDEC system being implemented? Thanks, Sean Simms, host of The Outsiders, etc. I haven't gotten anything back on that either. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to find out what's going on, because I don't think that's fair. Do you think that's fair?
Well, without a doubt, dealing with the judicial system, we need as much data to substantiate or unsubstantiate what's going on. And the way that you do that, you gotta have the technology up to date to be able to provide us what we need. In this clear case, there's no reason for us being behind, but I gotta call it like I said. You talk about black Democrats that are basically the ones in charge.
Yes, again, the operative words are black and the second Democrat. They're the ones in charge. So shouldn't we, the treatment be a little bit better? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just talking off the cuff. But we're going to take a look at that. And I also found out, I don't know, Doc, if you remember last week I spoke about the fact that you did. Actually, you brought up the subject that no one knows what Xavier Conaway, the clerk of the circuit court for Baltimore City, looks like. And I mentioned that this young man on the canvassing floor during the primaries thought I was Xavier Conaway. And I said, no, he's like 24 years old, man. I'm a lot older than he is. But I found out who he was. His name is Kalen Young, delegate for the 45th District, which is northeast Baltimore. And actually, Slim Shady did pretty good in that area of the city. And haven't heard from him yet. I did get in contact with his office, sent him an email. So Kalen Young, delegate, 45th District. I need you to confirm that that's what you said. You asked me if I was. I'd like to get him on the show as well. I mean, he's a newbie in the legislature. So I did, get in touch with him. So we'll see what happens there. And I've been waiting for this. Let's go to the second part of my interview with White House Press Correspondent Simon Ateba. And this is the second part. Rock, could you cut one, please?
Originally, I just want to, go back as far as your beginning. Where did you start out as far as being a journalist?
So I practice in West Africa. I spent a long time in Nigeria. I worked for a magazine. I worked for a newspaper. I even worked for a magazine based in Lebanon. I used to travel across West Africa to cover all kinds of issues. During my job, I've been arrested in Cameroon.
Yeah, I read about that. I did read about that. But would that have to do with Boko Haram, the terrorist organization?
One dream of Boko Haram. Then has been since that was in 2015. Boko Haram has placed so many people from Nigeria and pushed them away to Cameroon, and I was among the people who decided to go to the camp and investigate, and I was arrested, accused of being a spy for Boko Haram and detained for several days. I've been attacked on the Gulf of Guinea with an AK-47 to my head. I've been kidnapped in a bus in Lagos in Nigeria and dumped in the woods and left for dead. I've done only one job in my life, which is journalism. I've written countless articles, thousands of them. I've done almost 100 different things from politics, aviation, business, all kinds of stuff. So I'm not a rookie. I'm not writing my best story and trying to understand what's the 5Ws and age. No, I've been doing this job for a long time and understand different things. And, it's just that what we are trying to do at today in News Africa is just to strengthen ties between the U.S. and Africa using relevant and accurate information. And so, and I think that it would be great for, the person taking questions or giving people the opportunity to ask questions at the White House to understand that U.S. is trying to strengthen ties with Africa, and you need to, call on people who come from that continent, especially when the Vice President is traveling tomorrow, the First Lady is traveling, the Vice President is traveling to Africa tomorrow, the First Lady just returned from Africa, the Secretary of State just returned from Africa, the U.S. today announced the release of oil from Rwanda, and President Biden himself is planning to go to Africa. So there are all those engagements taking place.
Exactly.
And you need to be able to, call on people from that place.
Well, they should definitely be calling on you, and I'm listening to your credentials, and man, I'm going to tell you what, you definitely are the real deal. And I mean, with the kidnapping and with the being injured and what you're talking about with Guinea and so on, and Boko Haram dealing with those, I mean, those are real badasses. But I got a real quick question, and it has to do with what happened at that press briefing, White House press briefing. Now there was a guy, I'm just going to call him a clown, because this clown said to you that you needed to mind your manners. Who was this guy that said that to you?
Yeah, audio got a little low.
And he's had all kinds of problems. He was hired in 1992 by a TV station because he was doing President Bush. He was recently removed from the White House Correspondent Association because he became violent in the Rose Garden. His credentials were taken by the White House in 2018 or 2019 by the Trump White House. He used to crash and attack Press Secretary Donald Trump. That's the same guy who was trying to lecture me. All you need to do, go to my Twitter handle at Simon Ateba, or just go on Google and Google the guy. He used to work for Playboy. And so he was just a show. He wasn't a serious guy. First of all, he's 20 years. He's almost 2 decades older than me. And so so all I would say is, when you do your job and you ask real questions and you decide to really focus on the job, you come under attack and people try to silence you, they try to sideline you. I didn't go into journalism to make money. I've not made money. I've not made enough money. And I've gone there to just do my job. And I've worked to the White House. When things were really tough, I've worked from my house to the White House, to ask questions. you know, we don't always get the stories like. And I just want to do my job, and I think that she should understand that the U.S. is trying to, strengthen ties with Africa. She should call on people from that continent.
Well, you know what I'm going to do, Simon? What I'm going to do, what the outsiders are going to do, we agree with you wholeheartedly, because you have different news organizations. Instead of having your major media organizations basically get most of the questions and handling all of that, there should be a fairness and there should be equity, more equity in the questions being asked. And Simon Ateba, I want to thank you for being on the Outsiders. And what we're going to do is we're going to definitely keep in touch, and the Outsiders, we're going to keep looking into this matter as well.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Simon, take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
That was my second part of the interview with Simon Ateba, a White House Press Correspondent with Today News Africa. And he's correct. There's a media hierarchy that's going on where there are other media outlets that are out there, and it's like a suppression of what's going on. I think that whether it's in print, whether it's radio, podcast, or whatever, that people should look at other media outlets, because there's, like ours, we have inside information, and we give out information that's not out there with the so-called media hierarchy, or the top of the chain of the media hierarchy. What did you think of that, Doc?
Well, you're being very kind. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think what you have exposed exactly is what you just brought up. There is an inequity being done by the White House Corps, and it needs to be out of the discrimination area, and you need to have fairness in how the questions are going to be posed and who's going to be recognized to ask those questions. And there needs to be more fairness. There is inequity. You basically hit the nail on the head, and we're saying to the White House, you got to do more and better.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Bill, what do you think of that issue?
Well, I think Doc pretty much answered, but again, as much as I could say in terms of that, I disagree with some technology. The best thing that has happened is telephones and some of these podcasts, because otherwise the media has been so strangled, and they still got a stranglehold on it. But since these tools has come out, then it gives people an opportunity to get additional information that otherwise they wouldn't get, because the media is just controlled by a very small group, which suppresses the information they don't want people to have. So opening up to have these kind of vehicles is just a blessing for people to be educated about some issues that otherwise they wouldn't get educated about.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's a control mechanism. You can control the people by controlling the information. It's that simple. If you don't want a certain politician to be put in a bad light, even though the information is accurate and correct about the politician, then you just simply, you report other stories, and you ignore, what's going on, because your outlet is being used to protect. I think that is horrific. That is exactly what the Founding Fathers did not want. They wanted people to be able, free speech, and to be able to talk and discuss what's going on. But this media situation where you can just grab a story and have whoever's the owner of the media outlet look at the story and say, well, I'm buddies with so-and-so. He's a friend of mine. Or we've got contracts going on here and here. Or we have certain sponsors. So, you know what? Shut that down. Don't talk about that. And it's a disservice. It's a disservice to the citizens of not only what city you live in or state, but to the country. It's a disservice, what goes on there in this media hierarchy. And Bill, since we got you, talking on that subject matter, let's go to segue into your subject matter. The reason you're here, which is the water bill situation. You were at the rally a few weeks ago in front of City Hall, and I said, you know what, I got to have this guy on the show. What is going on with this water situation, and the billing and so on in the city of Baltimore?
Well, again, let me say thank you, but just to back up in terms of the media, let's be absolute. The media is the most powerful entity there is in the world. Whoever controls the media pretty much controls most of what happens.
They did a Bond movie.
Because that's what people get their information from, their opinions from, everything else. But in regards to the water bill, you know, as we know, Baltimore is up under a consent decree in terms of the infrastructure, right? So, in my personal opinion, you know, when they changed the billing from every 3 months to monthly, then people was not under the impression that their bills was gonna go up 4 or 5 times more than what they was.
Wow.
Right? You know, so actually, Baltimore is to repair the infrastructure. They're passing that cost on to the citizenship, because you know you can't justify. And I keep using me as an example,
okay,
because I'm the best example. That my water bill was $70 every 3 months. I'm paying $122 a month for my water bill. So I'm paying $300 additional every 3 months than what I used to pay. Now that's not with a family that have small children and all that. So you figure a family that got 4 and 5 children, they're paying $300 and $400 a month just to have water.
Oh,
now
it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And what's more ridiculous is that, see, leadership had not said nothing, and Doc talked upon the Democrats because we're controlled by Democrats. But my opinion is this, and I always say this: our biggest fault, Simms, is that until people realize that the only way to make politicians work for the masses of the people is when people organize, right? You know, so as long as we're not organized around issues, and when you look at black folks, unfortunately, the most organizing we do is that if a person get killed by police and it happened to get enough media attention, then you can have large gatherings, right? But we're not going to gather like that because they killing us with our water bills. They killing us with our BG&E bills. They killing us with food deserts, as Doc talk about, right? Now, white folks, they organize around different things. You know, they organize around the abortion issues and whatever issues they want, right? So, you know, their power is kind of different than our power, because our power is so fragmented in terms of, you know, we organize around name recognition, or people that we think that got power, or people that we think a superstar. You know what I'm saying? We could bring Lamar. I use Lamar, and I like him as a football player. But you could bring him in and talk about the water, and you may have 1,000 people down there just so they can see him.
Exactly.
Right? But he ain't gonna help you in terms of what you need help for. People need help in terms of being crushed, because we almost, I mean, even people that live in some of the poorest areas, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a shame that people are gonna be forced to move because they're not gonna be able to afford rent, electric, water, insurance, and none of that stuff, right? So we need a people's movement, you know, so that's the whole issue in terms of, you know, my plea in terms of the water, because I knock on wood every day that, thank God, I've been able to pay my way. But I'm saying that it's coming to the point where people ain't gonna be able to pay their way. And that's the last thing in the world that people need to be able to worry about, is how do they pay a water bill.
Do you think, I mean, I'm listening to what you're saying, and you're right on point. And it is 5 times. I mean, you're talking about $23 a month if it's 70 every 3 months. So that's 23 a month to 122 a month.
Right.
That's 5 times, a little over 5 times an increase. That is insane. With what's going on, do you think that this may be a planned, forced movement of citizens of Baltimore City, or certain citizens out of the city?
Look, when you look at it, I think you could use everything as part of the gentrification process, right? You know what I'm saying? You don't want to say that because you don't want to say, well, this is what they're doing. But when you look at everything that's happening, right? I mean, even when they start creating all these bicycle lanes, I used to say to people, look, man, come on. I know black people ride bicycles, but I do not see a whole bunch of people in the city riding bicycles, right?
No.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, they let you know what's coming, right? So everything that happens, I want to attach it to, that's part of the process and forcing people to move on. The crime and everything else. Listen, I've been saying for 30 years in Doc know, and I still believe in my heart. Anybody that common sense, I'm saying common sense. Just, if every 3 months, all across this country, we have citizens to witness an incineration process and guns and drugs is confiscated by the police department, can you imagine how less murders and how less drug crimes we will have? But it's $1 billion industry. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing about them drugs and weapons that the police confiscate, because we just want to believe that the police supposed to do what they're supposed to do. Irregardless of how much corruption comes out, that we know comes out on the police, or you could Google drugs and weapons stolen out of the evidence rooms and you can see it for yourself. But it's not an issue people gonna rally around, because people, for the most part, is afraid that we cannot beat government, right? Now, as bad as government is, government serves a purpose. Because if we don't have government, then, you know, people that just carry the guns or whatever, they're going to control your neighborhood.
Exactly.
Right? So, you know, government serves a purpose, right? But, you know, for our purpose, if we're not organized, government does not serve us in our better interests.
The people are the government, first of all. So when the government gets into a situation where they're so big that they control the people, that's when things start getting out of hand that goes against the citizenry. You're right, okay, people should be in a situation where they're informed and they should be able to rectify or correct a wrong or something that they see is being done that's hurting them. For an example is what's going on with the recall. That should be a arrow in the quiver where the citizens can use to recall a politician or elected official who's not behaving in the best interest of the citizenry. And what you're saying in bringing people together for an issue that is hurting the people, for example, what you're talking about, the increase in the water bill, and looking like there's things going on that may be pushing people out, high crime rate, drugs, etc. People need to be able to and should exercise their right as citizens and have an avenue where they can do something about it.
I think Bill, without a doubt, I think with his issue dealing with the burning up of drugs and guns is outstanding. I think his issue now with the water bills is also outstanding. But I think including with that, because Bill looks at it, I guess, criminal-wise and economic-wise. Most of my issues are health-related. And there are issues even with this health issue, dealing with water, that we need to address. The fact that, you know, we have a state senator, Antonio Hayes, and hopefully he'll be on this show, because I got a number of questions need to be asked of him. Where in the hell were you when the contaminated water was in your legislative district? You know, the 40th district, Sandtown, Winchester, had contaminated water. And then we have to take it even further. You're about to bring contaminated water from another state and bring it here into the state of Maryland. We got to look at the economics of issues, and we also have to look at the health-related issue of it. My two issues are the contaminated water, that this city failed us. We did what we had to do as a community in the absence of our city council people. There are two of them. That will be both the two different districts. But the one person that covers it all is the state senator. Where were you passing out water to people like the Harvey Johnson Towers? There was no other area in Baltimore City that got hit harder from contamination than the Harvey Johnson Towers. My community and I delivered cases and cases of water to them. So we're saying, folks, you got to look at the issues that we are bringing. Bill Goodin, I think he has cloned himself, or he needs to, because he's everywhere and he's asking the right questions of the people. We just need to look at the whole scope of it, because it's an economic issue, and from my vantage point, it's a health issue with the contamination of water and the polluted water being brought from another state.
Doc, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a perfect segue into our next clip. What could you cut to, please?
We understand and know that EPA and MDE chose the backwater treatment plant because the plant can handle the pre-treated wastewater and is operating in good standing. We understand, again, that they chose Back River because Back River is actually operating in good standing. Back River is actually operating in good standing and can handle this and deals with this kind of stuff every day. We should be talking about the fact that Back River was chosen as a place to do this because it's operating in good.
Budgetary changes that are now in the works. Savvy?
Human feces floating in the Back River.
That was a common thing when we first moved down here when I was a little kid.
For most of Sam Weaver's life, he's been dealing with water quality issues because of the wastewater treatment plant. Last summer, solids started showing back up in the river. The Maryland Department of the Environment and Blue Water Baltimore later sued the city over discharge violations. Advocates are also working to get legislation passed to prevent these issues from happening again.
We need to have more oversight. It endangers people's lives.
We can tell you that there's been a massive explosion here at the backwater treatment plant, for which they have a 2-alarm assignment here trying to deal with this. Now you can see how the whole backside of this building has been blown off.
Wastewater from the train derailment in a small Ohio town is coming to Maryland. Once it gets here, it will be treated at Clean Harbors, a facility in South Baltimore. And once it's treated there, it will get tested and be sent to the Back River treatment facility through the public sewer system.
We understand, again, that they chose Back River because Back River is actually operating in good standing and can handle this and deals with this kind of stuff every day. You're talking about the fact that Back River was chosen as a place to do this because it's operating in good standing.
It endangers people's lives.
Lead sponsor, Senator Paul Pinsky, says the bill establishes inspection and reporting requirements with penalties for non-compliance.
They would have no other choice but to do more inspections, clear vetting of what they're discharging, and if they're out of compliance, to tell them you got to change it. I think it's shameful, and it's been dangerous to the people of Baltimore.
I look at it this way. You know, being in good standing, I could give a damn whether it's in good standing. My thing is the health precautions that need to be put in place. And I commend the mayor in this particular case. I don't like the language he used in good standing. I'm not worried about the standings they have. I'm worried about the health precautions that need to be put in place. So I commend the mayor for doing it, but I'm saying we got to look at the total picture of things that are happening to us and look at who is responsible for making the decisions or not making the decisions. And I would say in the city of Baltimore, we don't have much of a choice. There are black folks that are Democrats that are in charge. And at this point, we not only need the term limits, but we also need recall, because some of these folks are doing us an injustice, like Senator Antonio Hayes. Where is he on these issues that affect a majority black community?
Well, I'm going to say this. No, Bill, you go ahead.
No, I always say, you know, because sometimes I may not craft the issues the same way as Doc, but everything is about health. I mean, when you get through with it, right? I remember 30 years ago, there used to be a guy named James Williams. James Williams used to always talk about the lead in the water in the school. You know what I'm saying? Then, you know, they started turning some other water faucets off in the school and putting bottled water in some schools, right? You know, we talking about the school system today, right? You know, we cannot justify why the school system 50 years later is worse now than it was 50 years ago. Right? You know, we can't justify, when we talk about leadership, Senator Lisa is making $500,000 a year, right? You know, so when you reward people to fail people, then poor people and unfortunate lots of black people. We had no idea what good leadership looked like because we reward bad leadership. So when we're rewarding bad leadership and the media is exposing that, then the people is embracing that, right? So, you know, we have to have other outlets where we can be educated, where we know what's going on, just like what Doc talked about. But Doc can't have a big enough voice. Bill Goodin can't have a big enough voice, right? That's why we have to have a people movement so that the people can have a voice, so that when enough of us is saying the same thing, it's going to inspire people to get involved, and people have to realize that they can make change. Otherwise, people are going to always feel hopeless. And I'm going to just close this. That's the good thing about Question K. When people say, oh, well, you know, Question K, Fox 45, man, I don't give a damn who put the money up, right? The bottom line is that 70 to 72% of the people voted for it. Why? Because they knew they didn't have leadership that was representing them. So, in regards to where the money came from, the people wanted it, right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it was a good thing that we had somebody in a position to put the money up. I don't care if Fox benefit for it or not. It wasn't about that. You know what I'm saying? It was about what the people wanted, and the people had a victory, and the people need more victories to empower themselves.
I agree.
United will never be defeated.
I agree wholeheartedly. The bottom line is the people voted against this, just like they voted against having BGE control the conduit system. Same situation, and you got a mess going on there as well. So yes, it is about, you know, the people, what they want, and you have the elite deciding, like Ryan Dorsey, you have the elite deciding what they want to do. They don't want Question K. They don't want people to have control. So the elite, they decide what they want to do as they look down on the citizens of Baltimore. Now this show is moving so fast. I don't want to get to the daggone elephant in the room. Okay. Bill, you made some great, fantastic points. And I'm going to get to the elephant in the room. We've got to get to it. Rock, cut 3.
You know what? I don't even drink. But if they indict punk-ass Donald Trump and slap some cuffs on him and fingerprint him, you know, Scott Bolden and Robert, I might pour a drink.
A moment that most of us never thought we'd see, Donald Trump has finally been arrested, booked, and arraigned in Manhattan in connection to his illegal hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. It's just the first of many steps toward justice, accountability, and upholding the constitutional principle that no one is above the law. Donald Trump stands before a judge, the first former president in history to be arraigned on criminal charges.
History was made today in New York City as former President Trump became the first U.S. president to ever be arrested and face criminal charges. When they heard New Yorkers were like...
So what's going on with this? I mean, I'm going to get to the real reason why they're doing this, but people seem to really be celebrating. The Democrats are, you know, celebrating and having a party. Only problem is when you celebrate and have a party and you party too much, there's that hangover the next morning. What do you gentlemen think?
Now, I do want to say something about Donald Trump, because okay. I ain't gonna lie. I've been on radios, I wrote posts. In my opinion, I said Donald Trump should have been in prison and on death row. This here man was in charge of the government that he tried to overthrow. People died, people stormed the Capitol, and this man is still allowed to run for president. Sheila Dixon got in trouble on some little old stuff, and Catherine Pugh on some books, and she had to wait for years before she could run again. So I think what Donald Trump done is he exposed the system in a way it had never been exposed in terms of the corruption. So in my opinion, Donald Trump should be in jail for life at the minimum, or he should really be on death row, because he done the unthinkable in terms of when he tried to overthrow the government and cause people to storm the Capitol. And I'm going to close with this. You know, if that was black people that stormed the Capitol, listen, let me tell you, how many of them you think would have got out of there alive?
I mean, that situation with storming the Capitol, I mean, I had my opinion on that because I understand co-intel and false flag operations and bringing in people in order to rile things up. But if you've got people there who are already ready to do that, that makes it a lot easier to do. So that situation that happened on January the 6th, terrible. Should not have happened, period. End of story. It was ridiculous. It was outrageous. And I agree with that. Doc, what do you think?
Well, I tell folks I don't like having too much discussion and wasting too much of my time.
You said that last week.
Talking about the former president, I do think that the folks out of New York do not have the right issues on this past president. I think it's really a waste of time. I think it's like a shell game. Folks, we are losing the major issues. And I will consistently be the same person who keeps saying the president of the United States and the Vice President of the United States have failed us because we are losing two of our issues that we agreed on before they got elected. And that is the John Lewis voting rights bill and the George Floyd crime bill. We're talking about everything but that. And I'm telling folks on the basis of those two issues alone should be the basis of whether or not this president and the vice president get reelected. I ain't worried about no damn Republican former president. I'm worried about the folks that are in office right now, and the two major issues, neither one of them have been addressed by the president and the vice president. The George Floyd bill and the John Lewis bill.
That's why Superstar Doc Cheatham is the co-host. This is exactly what needs to be focused on and talked about. I have to talk about this president because it's news, it's a hot topic. Doc, you're correct. You got to stay focused, and we do stay focused. But I got to...
It's got to be brought up. It's a talking piece.
But look here, I have to play cut 4. You got it. Cut 4. Here's a reaction by others.
136 years in prison? Excuse my language, people. Please excuse my language. But this is bull. Let's be honest. And like I said before my first video got cut off, they want to claim no one is above the law. If no one is above the law, then go lock up Hillary Clinton. If no one is above the law, go lock up Dr. Fauci. His ass should have been in jail. Hillary Clinton deleted over 33,000 classified emails. And she didn't serve 1 day in prison. This is a whole lot of nothing. And, you know, defense attorneys have done that in every case I ever tried as a prosecutor, and I never thought I'd do it to an indictment myself. First of all, the indictment is insufficient on its face. What that means is that the prosecutor does not allege what the other crime is that a defense attorney can prepare for. It's absurd. And let me just say one thing about Alvin Bragg, who made a fool of himself yesterday, as far as I'm concerned. He said, we cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct. Are you kidding? People are being stabbed, beaten, stabbed, brutalized, and murdered in New York City by career criminals who are being let out again and again. Felonies reduced to misdemeanors unless you're a Republican. This is a pathetic man who is not connected to reality. They're waiting for Bragg to tell him what the crime was. Was it murder? Was it armed robbery, assault? What'd you get him on, Bragg? But when the big moment came, Bragg couldn't perform.
Well, speaking as someone who very strongly does not want Donald Trump to get the Republican presidential nomination, I'm extraordinarily distressed by this document. I think this is even weaker than I feared it would be.
If I had to characterize it, it's disappointment. I think everyone was hoping we would see more. I had hoped that there would be more in the indictment. Here's where we're going to run into legal problems, because the indictment does not say what that second crime is, which is completely inexplicable to me. It's unclear.
No. You've got others who have their opinion, because there are tons of different opinions on this situation. Some are celebrating and others are saying it was weak, and what crime is Bragg, what is he, the DA, talking about? And I'm going to explain to you all why this is really happening. Okay, on the outsiders, we have the inside information, and all of this scuttlebutt that's going about. Here's the issue I have with Bragg, okay, the DA. This guy, he defended, there was a store owner who was attacked, And this Bragg, this guy, this J. Craig Needham, criminal coddling. Yeah, I got a problem with him. Harvard University going disgrace. No crime producing. 20 sandwich eating knucklehead embarrassment. He went. No, I'm going to read the article because I got a problem with this guy. It doesn't have anything to do with Trump. It has to do with what happened in New York, and it looks like this guy, Mr. Alba, was attacked in his store, and this guy went after Mr. Alba, the guy that attacked him. He died. He died from his injuries because the guy grabbed, I guess, a box cutter, came behind the counter, attacked Mr. Alba in his own store, and Mr. Alba defended himself. And so he went after Mr. Alba, the guy who owned the store, and even Mayor Adams, he jumped in to defend the store owner, and even the mayor said, no, man, this guy's defending himself, and you're going after him. So yeah, I got a problem with Bragg on that issue. It's not the Trump issue, and I didn't like that at all when I was reading about it, and I'd heard about it before. So that's my situation, and he's more concerned about going after white-collar crime and not violent criminals. That's another issue I have with him. And a lot of people in New York have that issue as well. Go after the violent criminals. Gentlemen, what do you think about this situation?
Well, I'm going to say again, I agree with Doc in terms of this, that we have to stay focused, right? But I'm also going to say, you know, one of the things I hate to hear black people say from all levels is that, you know, we can't do what white folks say. Man, that's bull stuff. I mean, we can't do what white folks do. You see what I'm saying? When they get in office, if they do something, then we expect them to get away. When we do it, then it's another type of situation. I'm saying I want a process in terms of law that it's the same. You know what I'm saying? Just like, and I close with this. Again, here's another example. You know, we know that police do not treat black people like they treat white people. I've seen situations where white people was fighting the police, trying to grasp over a gun, and they didn't get killed. They still take them to jail. We have had other incidences with black people that they didn't have no gun, and they end up getting killed. So, you know, my whole thing in terms of as long as I live and as long as I can fight, I'm pushing for, I want the same opportunities, I want the same school systems, I want everything to be on equal board, that whatever white folks got, black folks deserve too.
Exactly. Wholeheartedly, Doc.
Well, I think I'd like to close out with this. I think really as a people, we expect more and better of us, which I have no problems with. But I would go from the movie The Untouchables, the question that was posed by Sean Connery, and I'm saying to all of us leaders, what are you prepared to do? What are you? And I'm saying today we are prepared to ask not only for the resignation of the CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools, but now we are asking for the resignation of the director of Recreation and Parks, one because of the injustice he was involved with the line being done by Antonio Hayes, and he's covered up the line. But the two worst recreation centers in the city of Baltimore are both in Antonio Hayes' district. They're both on the same street. They're both on Bentlow Street. We need to do one thing. What are you prepared to do, Baltimore City? What are you prepared to do?
Well, let's go quickly. I've got two clips real quick, and we're going to finish out. Rock, could you cut 5?
What an abrupt segue. Won't you be more professional? Can we storm it?
Yes.
Are you happy for that, for an interview?
Absolutely. It's Miss Daniels if you're nasty.
That's how the interview started. I mean, that's how the interview started. How anybody can take this woman credible. I can find it credible. Check out this exchange. No, your only crime, it seems to me, is you got paid $130,000. And someone's got to explain why you got paid that. I mean,
right, which I didn't even realize the gravity of the situation at the time, or, you know, the repercussions of that. But, you know, I'm not responsible for all this bad behavior or the charges against him by any stretch. I mean, I'm sure there's just more than we can even imagine. I think he even goes on trial in a couple weeks for rape.
What?
That's news to me. I had to cut the interview right there. He's going to trial for rape now? She said she wasn't responsible for all this.
Yeah, well, that's what Stormy Daniels said in an interview with Piers Morgan. That was the Hodge twins talking about that. A rape charge coming? I mean, this is getting out of hand. And I want to, at the very end of the show, this is the reason, people, listen up. This is the reason why the Democrats are going after Donald Trump so aggressively. Rock cut 6.
Self-respect says, be grateful, thankful, and get off the stage.
And do you think, Gene, should the same logic apply to presidents? I mean, if Biden is already 80, he'd be 86 if he was to run again and win. And he's already showing signs what many people think of first onset of dementia. Should he be able to run as president at this age?
No, I don't think so. And that doesn't mean that I agree or don't agree with the politics. Politics aside, there should be a test to find out if somebody has their wits about them. Number one, you're talking about the most powerful person on earth, and also to find out whether or not somebody is absolutely nuts.
There's a lot of reason to be hopeful in 2020. But for God's sake, please take advantage of what's available.
He said those words on January 4th, 2022.
It is noteworthy that the percentage of women who registered to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line. Women, the first frost, you know what's happening. You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
He didn't have cancer.
Last week, President Harris and I stood in the United States Capitol.
Really?
And that's why I asked President Harris to travel to the region last August. But all kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard over him. There's not a single solitary Biden man that is younger than any Biden woman. They make a very good point. Here's the deal. Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. We know these should be self-evident. All men are afraid of it. You know the thing. I'll come back up again. Hey, look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
I'm sorry. Yes, no man has ever been better equipped to lead the United States, and indeed all of the free world than the current commander-in-chief. We're in good hands, folks.
That's the reason why the Democrats are going after Trump, is because the situation with Biden, it's politics, people. It's Banana Republic going after your political opponent situation that you have. Period. End of story. Okay, guys, what are you quick? We got about 30 seconds.
I want to invite everyone this afternoon to come to the 1500 block of North McKean. We're giving away, thanks to the church that's coming to us, we're giving away free clothing for children, women, and men. We're giving away free food, folks that need food. And we're having hot dogs and soda for folks that are coming to visit us. The 1500 block of North McKean.
Okay, that sounds fun.
I'm going to just say, people want to see change, and they need to be the change they want to see.
Exactly. You know what? This was a really good show. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Mr. Bill Goodin, author. America is on fire and crumbling. And you all listening, watching us on YouTube, Facebook. God bless all. Take care. Resurrection Sunday is tomorrow. Take care. Goodbye.
Appreciate it.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.